do, because you have to not only act, but you have to interpret the character, you have to get the lips to match and all of that stuff. And if you can do anime voice acting, you can pretty much do all the rest. The rest of it becomes much easier. So what we're going to do is a little bit of a mini version of that, and I'm going to kind of go through some basics on what you might need to do, and if you're interested in getting into voice acting. So let's get started. I'm Tony Oliver. Yeah, not worth all that. Basically, I've been working with Bang Zoom for many years. I've been a voice actor for the last 25, 30 years. Started in a show called Robotech, and I've done everything from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Rekka 7 and Gurren Lagann, and I direct and I voice act a lot of games and things like that. And I work with Bang Zoom as a sponsor of this. Bang Zoom is one of the leading anime recording studios in the country. They also do a lot of video games and now getting into original animation and webcasting and podcasts and stuff. They have a show called Anime TV. I don't know if any of you have seen that. Thank you, big fan. I produced the first season, and now that another producer's taking it, they're really doing something well with it. So just wanted to give some props to our sponsor. So what do you need to learn to become a voice actor? You know, I mean, people ask me this all the time. It's one of the biggest questions I get at my panels is, what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? And I need to learn how to make a PowerPoint that works on one click. That's the first thing I need to learn how to do. But the job is voice acting. Voice acting, okay? People come up and say, well, I do funny voices. I can be a voice actor. Well, it's not about doing funny voices. In Los Angeles, there's about 5 or 10 guys that do all the funny voices. In fact, really most of them fall down to one guy named Frank Welker, who does just about everything. Yeah. Frank is cool. I got to direct him once. He's a very cool man. So it isn't really about funny voices. It's about acting. You have to be an actor first. So the first thing you need to learn is acting. You need to get some acting training. You don't have to spend, thousands of dollars a month and go to Uta Hagen's class in Manhattan. You don't have to do that. You need to just get some basics. Community college will do it. Some basic acting. Get on the stage. It's really important, by the way. I started as a stage actor. I still do musicals and things. I just closed a musical in Hollywood about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Working. I did Working. I got to direct it and perform in it, so that was kind of cool for the Hollywood Fringe Festival. So it's a really important thing, and the reason is there's a big difference between camera acting and stage acting. Stage acting, you have to be a little bit bigger than life. You have to be kind of broad. You have to be able to fill up a room with your personality and with your voice. And that's what's really necessary if you're going to be a voice actor. Because even though you're working with a microphone, the microphone doesn't really give you much more than just take what you give it. It doesn't really add to you. So you need to be able to perform and produce emotion with your body and with your voice. You need to learn to realistically convey emotion and character with your voice, face, and body. Now, I know it's voice acting again. You're in a booth and all by yourself or with a group of people. But in order to really get the character to work, you have to move. Yeah. If I'm doing an action sequence or something, and I have to be fighting, my feet you have to keep your feet still and you have to keep your mouth in front of the microphone, but the rest of the body is whipping and moving and all that stuff. And how you position your body and how you position yourself physically affects how your voice sounds. So you really need to learn how to realistically do that. And there's a difference. All of you I know have watched a high school play or a junior high school play, and everybody's doing a great job, but it sounds like they're reading a script. It doesn't sound realistic, as opposed to going to a Broadway show or seeing your favorite movie where you really feel like these people are really feeling it. And that's really the secret to all of it. The big secret to acting, this is it. Don't act. Okay? Don't act, you feel. It's all about emotion. You generate a character and you generate the feeling and the connection with the character with your emotion. As an actor, your job is to connect with the character, okay? Because your job is to make the audience connect with your character so that they'll care about what they're watching. Think about the best thing you've ever seen, all the anime that you love, the manga that you read. What is it that brings you back time and time again? It's that emotional connection to the characters that you're watching or reading about or whatever. Well, that's your job as an actor, is to make that connection. And the only way to do that is for you to connect to the character itself. But you can't just connect to it intellectually. You have to do it in here. It's all about emotion. Okay? So you want to create emotion, and that's how you do it. You got to get accustomed to performing in front of people. Get involved in community theater, local theater, church theater, Jewish community centers all over the country have theater programs. There's all sorts of places that you can practice this stuff, and the idea is to get used to doing what I'm doing right now, being up in front of people and being comfortable with it, okay? Because even though you're in a booth and it's going to tape, well, no tape anymore, it all goes to computer now, but even though you're doing that, you're still performing, you're still being a performer, you still have to create that excitement in the audience. And one of the greatest places to learn how to do that is in theater. You want to take some acting classes, like I said, local community college, take workshops for your various teachers. Take one of my workshops. Is that a shameless plug? Okay, all right. But there are many workshops. Those of you who come from the New York area, there's a studio there called the Edge Studios up there. This is where, when I'm in New York, that's where I teach, but they also have ongoing classes all the time. Some of them from people like Tom Whalen and Scott McNeil and people like that. So you can take classes from there. Take classes, take a radio course at your local, something that teaches you how to learn with your voice. And you want to take it from various teachers. Because anything I tell you may work for me, but it might not work for you. So you want to listen and learn different various techniques from various people so that you can really learn what works for you in order to create a character that's memorable, that people want to listen to. Okay? And you need to take this preparation seriously. The reason I say that is I've been to a lot of conventions where somebody goes, well, what do I need to do to get into be a voice actor? And I said, well, first of all, take an acting class. And I see their eyes kind of roll back into the back of their head. Oh, you mean I got to go study? But yeah, it isn't easy. This is a tough profession. It's very competitive. There's only a few places in the country that you can do anime, especially. But there's only a few places in the country where you can do large national products that make you the kind of fame and fortune that everybody, including me when I first got started, thought I was going to get. So it's very competitive, and so you need to really commit yourself to it, and part of that commitment is doing the work, doing the homework, taking the classes, learning how to act, learning how to use your voice. Which brings me to the next subject, which is your voice. That's the other part of it. Voice acting is voice acting. But before I do that, I want to give you a little exercise that you can take home with you. For those of you who really want to learn how to act, one of the greatest ways to do it is just to learn how it is that you differentiate emotions when you read, okay? So one of the things that you can do is take a piece of copy that you haven't read, or even one that you have read before. A couple of lines of dialogue, something that you can, and this is an experiment. I want you to try this at home because this is kind of cool. And just read it with any emotion that you want, okay? And then you want to change the emotion. And by doing that, I don't mean read it differently. You read it exactly the same way, but change what you're thinking. Change what you're feeling. So if you're going to read the line, what you need to learn, and now I'm going to feel dark about it, what you need to learn. And it does change a little bit about what you do and how it sounds. So you want to try reading things in different ways and see what it sounds like. Record it on your iPhone or your smartphone or a tape machine or whatever you have to record, and listen back to it. And listen to how it is, just by thinking a little bit differently, you're going to be able to affect the difference in how that line comes across and how you connect to it. After you do a little bit of that exploration for a while, you start to learn how to manipulate your own emotions, and you start to learn how to manipulate your own voice so that you can really get exactly what you're looking for. Speaking of the voice, that's the next part of things. You need to learn how to use your voice effectively. Now, a lot of us, I used to do this a lot, but I don't do it anymore in Anime Expo and down in Los Angeles, where we used to do this, a version of what I'm doing here. And we'd bring people up, and I'd always find the most obnoxious, loud person in the world. and I'd bring them up and have them read, and inevitably they would do this. Learn to use your voice effectively. It would be like you couldn't hear. And I'd finally go up and I'd say, okay, now I really want you to really blast it out to the back, and let me hear it from the back of the room. And they would go, learn to use your voice effectively. Now they thought they were just doing great, but the fact is that you have to project your voice. And you have to learn how to project your voice effectively, and part of that is breathing. And you need to learn to breathe properly. So I'm going to show you a little something about what breathing properly means, okay? Most of us, when we were young, they say, everybody suck in your breath. And you puff out your chest and pull in your stomach, right? And everybody did that. That's exactly the opposite way in which you're supposed to breathe, okay? Breathing is all about filling up your lungs, and the way your lungs work, it's basically a bagpipe. That's the analogy. You're basically a bagpipe. If you think of a bagpipe, it's a big bag full of air that you fill up, and then you push it, and it pushes the air through a reed that makes it vibrate, and then that's what makes the sound. Well, your voice is the same way. Your lungs are the bag. And the thickest part of your lungs that hold the most air is at the bottom, not the top. So when you're breathing properly, you really should be breathing from, it's almost like you're pulling air into your abdomen. So like this. You know, see, this is moving. My chest and my neck is not moving. So one of the ways you can practice that is this way. I need a volunteer. Just somebody, somebody, yeah, you, come on. Okay. Ooh, wait a minute, puffy dress, maybe a problem. Come on anyway. Now some of you are going to have to stand up here. I want you to come here, just sit up here and lay on your back. In a sit-up position. Put your knees there, feet flat on the ground, and back flat on the ground, okay? And take a big deep breath in. It's hard to tell because of the dress. But when you're in this position, it forces you to breathe from your diaphragm, which is right here. You can, there, just go ahead and take the breath now. And watch my hand going up and down, see? It forces you to breathe correctly. This is a great way to practice this and to get the muscle memory. And another way to do it is because you got to make that strong. So you put a book on there, and it's kind of like doing calisthenics for your diaphragm. So it's a little exercise you can take home. And once you start to do that, and thank you very much. Once you start doing that, your diaphragm will get stronger and you'll be able to be naturally louder. You need to be able to fill up a room like this without really straining, without a microphone, and have no problem to be able to do this for hours at a time. That's what it's all about, okay? I can't do it for hours at a time because I'm at a con and I'll get hoarse. But you need to learn to breathe properly. That's the big signal. Now, even if you don't do voice acting and you learn how to breathe properly and you can get nice and loud like that, it's going to help you in almost every aspect of your life. Because all of us at one time or another have to get up in front of people and present things. You have to do things at work. You have to do things at a meeting. You have to do stuff like that. And it will help you gain some confidence. Okay? You also need to learn to place your voice. One of the things that people tend to do is they tend to put their voice in their throat, you know? And even when you're kind of doing those kind of parts, the throat needs to be completely relaxed. And by changing the placement of your voice, you can change how your voice sounds, and you can also change the age. For instance, we all talk in our middle voice. It's called a true voice. Pardon me? Yeah, it's all your own thing, Tony. You all have the true voice, and my true voice tends to kind of lay right here. Now, it really is being generated from here, but it feels like the vibrations are going from here, because your face, by the way, happens to be a big amplifier. That's what your sinuses are for. It bounces around and actually amplifies the sound. So your sound comes out of your whole face, not just your mouth. So you want to push it up there. But if I were to push it up even higher, so that I'm taking out the low end, and I'm pushing it right up here, suddenly I'm sounding a lot younger. And then all I got to do is add a character to it, now I got a young guy, okay? Same thing if I drop it so that I'm feeling more of the vibrations down in my chest. I can drop it down here, and suddenly I start to feel older, then all I have to do is give it a little texture, and now I've got an older voice, or I've got Ukiora. So that's how we manipulate our voice, by just basically changing the placement. If it's in your throat, you're not going to last. And since most of the work now is going into gaming, and gaming is often a 2 or 3 hour session of doing nothing but screaming and dying and getting shot. Or a couple weeks ago, I did a game where I was just sitting around waiting to be beaten by a dragon, you know. You got to not use your throat, otherwise you're just not going to last, and you're going to hurt yourself.